My name is Suzanne Suggs, and I'm the chair of the Lugano Summer School. And I am delighted to be here with you today to announce that we have started this seminar series, and also to welcome you to our very first seminar within this series. Also with me here today is Emilia Campello, who is the coordinator of the Lugano Summer School. And she'll be speaking with us all a little bit later, specifically moderating the session and then giving you some news about the next edition of the summer school. And of course, also with me is a member of the steering committee of the Lugano Summer School, a facilitator of the course that we've offered for the last several years on social media, and he's also head of teaching and training at the Swiss Tropical and Public Health Institute in Basel, Switzerland, and that is Christoph Piemer. And so before I turn it over to Christoph, who's going to talk with us all about the integration of social media and conversational AI, focusing specifically on new developments, opportunities, and also risks for global health, I'd like to just quickly give you an overview of the summer school and the dates of the next edition so that you can plan your agendas accordingly and be with us either in presence here in Lugano or online if that works better for your agenda. So this August, we will be having the 33rd edition of the Swiss School of Public Health Summer School. And as you know, the summer school is designed for mutual learning for change. That is absolutely our aim, mutual learning for change. And we bring together practitioners, we bring together academics of all stages of their career, managers, health policy makers, policy influencers, and implementers under one roof, where we all work together, learn from each other. And the idea is that everyone can go back home into their settings and really have tools and skills and examples and a bigger network to call upon so that you can do the work that you do even better. So we're looking forward to welcoming you to the summer school. If you can join us this year, you can watch our website. You see the link here on the screen. You can watch our website for announcements about the new program we are planning for you right now. And of course, you can please follow us on LinkedIn, where we make announcements quite regularly. So just to give you a flavor for what the summer school looks like, if you have, I know many of you have attended, I recognize your names, but you can see here just last year, we had 192 participants from 57 countries. This is just to give you a glimpse of some of the photos. We took many, 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 many photos, but just to give you a glimpse of some of the things that we did. We always have on the Monday night, a wonderful night at our Lido. Right here, you can see the background with the Lake of Lugano and the mountains, and of course, a few classes and activities that we did also on another evening dedicated to healthy lifestyle promotion. This is what a typical plenary looks like, and some of the classrooms look like. They're all very interactive. They're not frontal lectures. They're, of course, a bit of theory, but a lot of practice and a lot of exchange. So if you have any questions about the summer school, you please let us know. You can contact myself, Suzanne, or you can contact Emilia or any member of the steering committee. There's also several members of the steering committee who've joined us today, as I can see you online. So welcome to you all. I am now going to turn this over to Christoph, who's going to give us all a good introduction into the integration of social media and conversational AI. So I'll start sharing my screen now and turn it over to you, Christoph.
Thank you, and a very warm welcome also from my side. And I'm really excited to talk about a topic of such great importance, or basically it's two topics which I want to focus on today, and which is social media and conversational AI. And we look then especially at the convergence, at the integration of these two topics, and what can they mean for global and public health. And in doing so, I will firstly briefly introduce social media and its implications and meanings for global health. Then I will talk about conversational AI. And in the third part, I will very concretely look at the integration, what are chances, what are risks, what can we consider in moving forward. And yeah, this is a bit of the overview of my talk. Let's start with social media. And I think the importance of social media cannot be overestimated, because when we look at the numbers, just at the mere numbers, we can see that there are more than 4.5 billion users, social media users today. Many of the most relevant, of the most dominant platforms You certainly know there's the Facebook, YouTube, and so on. There's one development that I also want to highlight, which is the emergence of instant messengers such as WhatsApp, which you can see here, WeChat, Facebook Messenger, also Telegram. So together they have a big share, and they will play an important role when I will be talking about the convergence of social media and conversational AI. So a massive phenomenon, and think I don't want to touch on theory, but I want us to explore the most basic principles of social media, and I think we can do so when we understand this in contrast to what was before or what are other ways. So Web 1.0, for example, which was the main mode that we've seen before, there was one producer which shared a piece of information on a website, and then it was accessed by many consumers. The big difference here with social media is that it's a role change. Every consumer can at the same time also be a producer of content. And you can already see this makes the scenery much more dynamic. And there are three principles that I think are really very relevant for us to understand why these social media applications are so powerful. First, it's the speed. So, for example, news on Twitter, they're very often quicker than news which are shared via traditional media channels, news outlets, and others. Then, second point, it's reach. You may have heard about the theory of 6 degrees of separation, which means that there are just 4 connections between any of us and any other person on this globe. This theory or this concept has not proven right, but when we look, for example, at Facebook, we know that each person is connected to any other person on Facebook by just an average between 3 or 4 intermediaries. So that means there is, someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows the Pope, if the Pope is on Facebook, which I assume, but he's not yet my friend, at least. So the third principle, and this is really very crucial, is trustworthiness, because trustworthiness is of utmost importance in the field of media consumption. And what we can see is that we share information on social media through nodes, through people who already have some connections to one another. So people are connected on Facebook, for example, as friends, on LinkedIn as acquaintances, job acquaintances, and so on. So they have on many platforms, some kind of connection, which means that they attribute higher levels of trustworthiness, and even if the information is, as it turns out to be quite often, plain wrong. So I think the importance of that social media has for global health cannot be overestimated, because it has really in the last years affected global health in a transformative manner, with potentialities, of course, but also with huge risks. And I want to clearly point our attention to the example of COVID-19, because it nicely shows the relevance of digital social media, because the World Health Organization, including its Director General, they have coined the pandemic also an infodemic. That means we had to fight the virus. That was one thing, but we also had to fight mis and disinformation, which was just an additional massive challenge. And when we look at why this is the case on social media, just very in a simplified version, we know that fake news, false news, misinformation is spreading quicker, further, and more broadly than the truth. And one of the reasons is that it is in many respects, in many cases, more emotional, and we humans, we are more attracted by emotional content. One of the explanations, there are certainly more. And when we look now at concrete implications regarding, for example, the COVID-19 vaccination debate, studies found a clear negative relationship between people who use social media for news consumption, information consumption in general, and lower vaccine intentions. So people who use or who rely more on social media tend to be more skeptical towards vaccine. And when we look at social media, there's a dominance of vaccine hesitant topics. So very concrete implications of this phenomenon. However, we also can make use of social media the other way around. So we can use it as a tool to fight mis and disinformation and to convince people to engage in more healthy behaviors. So social media, and this is a result of many reviews, meta-analysis, can be really an effective means to improve health outcomes, to change people's behaviors, attitude, and so on. I just have pointed out one example from the area of smoking, but there are certainly more. So if we do these campaigns right, they have an effect. That's, in a nutshell, the key message here. Now, let's look at conversational AI. And conversational AI, especially generative AI, another term here, we have probably all heard it in the last few months. But it is a development, of course, which is much, much older. Conversational AI, what does it mean? It refers to a bundle of tools, of applications, chatbots, digital agents, conversational agents, as we also label them, which can talk to users. So we can converse with them in one way or the other. There's a huge block of underlying techniques, technologies, natural language processing, machine learning, and so on. I don't want to go to the details here. I will say a bit more in a few minutes. I want to emphasize that conversational AI is not new, and it has been established in very many different areas of public and global health. So mental health is a very prolific field. For example, many people have used digital coaches regarding mental health, psychological well-being. We also have studies which really show that there's a clear effect of such tools, client services, training, and so on. So you can see that there are many areas where we can use conversational AI. What we have observed was that this development has been specifically pushed during COVID-19. So many organizations, networks, institutions, they have started to develop conversational AI agents, chatbots, for example, to fight the mis and disinformation which was out there. And we have examples from across the world, from the continent of Africa, Asia, the US, and so on. And probably the biggest and most wide-reaching example is that from the World Health Organization. They have developed a chatbot which can be used on WhatsApp, on Facebook Messenger, and which responds to questions on COVID-19 vaccinations, and so on. This is available, the service is available in many languages, English, Spanish, Arabic, and many more. And the organization claims that it has reached 12 million people, but they also emphasize that potential is much higher. So because there are 4.2 billion social media users on this globe, and they have all potential access to this or to these services. So this was one, I think, very wide-reaching application. And what we need to keep in mind is that most of these conversational agents, they are rule-based. That's the term where we describe the technology which is underlying. And this means that you have restricted conversational options. So you communicate alongside predefined pathways. So you have menus, you can click on certain options, you can go down specific pathways, but it's not a completely free conversation that we can have with most of these tools. I will say something about the reason in a few minutes. So in addition to just text-based or video and image-based chatbots, we have also virtually simulated chatbots. And again, I want to cite an example from the World Health Organization. Maybe you have heard already of Florence. Florence is the first, not just a chatbot, but it's a virtual agent with whom or with which we can really talk. So I can share the slides afterwards, so you can click on these links. You can try it out yourself. So this is not just an agent with which you write, but when you activate your headset, you can talk. And let me share one short demonstration.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Florence from the World Health Organization. I want to talk to you about the harms of using tobacco, including smoking, and how to quit.
Why should I quit smoking?
It's more important than ever to quit during this ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Smokers are more likely to develop a severe case of COVID-19.
Well, I want to quit, but I've tried before and it's just really hard.
I'm here to help. I can teach you proven techniques to help you quit, tell you why quitting is a good idea, and more. What would you like to talk about?
Well, how do I quit?
Congratulations. Being motivated to quit is the first step. The best way to quit is to build a plan. Are you ready to get...
Okay, I think I want to stop it here. Before I go to next slide, I want, however, to emphasize that I have observed this development for 3 years now. And initially, Florence was only capable of talking about smoking or quitting smoking. Now she can talk about healthy behavior, about COVID and so on, about many more topics. However, I have some difficulties with her because she's not properly capable of understanding my particular Austrian English. So maybe that's better when you talk with her, but I don't think that this piece of technology is already at its best. But we are only at the beginning of these developments, and there is a lot more to come. And with this, I also want to point our attention to a very recent breakthrough regarding the advancement of generative language models. And that sounds like quite abstract, but when I throw then the name of ChatGPT or the language model GPT into the round, then many of you might have heard or perhaps even tried it out. And what this does, or what this algorithm does, or what language models do in general is they put together words in a way so that they make sense from a probabilistic, from a statistical viewpoint. And they can do that very well. There are many applications where such tools, ChatGPT and others, are being discussed, how capable, for example, they are with regard to making medical diagnosis, doing all kinds of analysis and so on. But we need to be careful. There's a big but. They cannot understand meaning of words as we humans do. And this is why such algorithms that produce perfect text that sounds really well, that reads really well, but they can be factually wrong and contextually completely inappropriate. And this is something we need to consider when we want to use such tools for global health. In addition, these tools, at least at the moment, they are not properly prepared to act as how would you say, to facilitate dialogue. So they are focusing on giving information on prompts which are coming from the user, but they're not really truly facilitators of dialogue. So it's possible, but it's not well flowing to keep talking to such algorithms at the moment. And the problem here is that we cannot fully and sometimes not even partly rely on this. And you have heard perhaps of Microsoft's chatbot, who was launched in 2016, and after a few hours only, it turned out to become a racist. So just based on the conversations with its users who trained it inadvertently or advertently to become a Nazi. And Microsoft, I think after a few hours, it had to take this back. For the domain of global health, it can have very bad consequences. And for example, one chatbot was taken down after complaints of harmful advice. And we have even more negative used, so the medical chatbot who used the GPT language model, who was supposedly suggesting a patient to kill themselves. And I also found one example which is tragic, but we have to verify it, of course. We always need to be careful with such news, but obviously, as it's portrayed here, a man took his life based on the advice of a chatbot. So these are, of course, the most extreme examples, but the point here is really we need to be very careful especially careful because global and public health is a very sensitive field because we have to deal with the correct information from a medical standpoint. We have to be sensitive towards any kind of biases and so on. So let's now and you might have experienced, or you might have seen this already. Allow me to say a couple of words about the convergence of social media and conversational AI. What are the particular advantages? And when I talk about convergence, I mean the integration. When such AI-based chatbots are integrated in social media environments, and just two examples are Facebook or WhatsApp. And what you can see based on the figure I have shared before, we have a new power player in the mix. And this power player is very mighty because it can talk 24/7. It can talk not just to one user, but to many users. And with this development, we really have the combination of the benefits from two fields. We have the low threshold access from the field of social media. For example, when you consider WhatsApp is available in many low and middle income countries in areas with poorer internet connectivity. And it can also be handled, for example, by people who are not so digitally literate. So there is certainly a low threshold, a good accessibility. And we integrate this, we merge this with the personalization and engagement features of conversational AI. And there's one psychological advantage, this is what we know from research, that when it comes to these algorithms being used as coaches, as tutors, and so on, people tend to be more open when it comes to emotional expressions. And for example, to the expression of sadness. One reason for this could be that they find these tools to be less judgmental. I want to point the attention also to one project that I'm coordinating at the moment. What you can see here on the left-hand side is IO. And IO is a WhatsApp-based AI-powered chatbot which supports young people living with HIV in Nigeria. We are developing this in the setting of a Swiss National Science Foundation project in a partner consortium, which you can see here. IO is a Yoruba name, so the local language spoken in Nigeria. It means joy at the same time, and it can be a female and a male name. So it's almost a perfect name for a chatbot. So what does IO do? So IO is really available on WhatsApp, which is very broadly used among the target population in Nigeria and in many other areas, of course. So the threshold is low, threshold of access. And IO can provide answers to open questions around HIV because HIV in these settings and elsewhere is highly stigmatized and people have limited chances to ask questions. So IO interacts then with users in dedicated coaching and information sessions about topics concerning how to live with HIV, more medical topics, more social topics, and so on. IO can also remind users of taking medication and of following the medical appointments, which is absolutely crucial. And IO surveys the mood in the conversation and provides socio-emotional support. When we look at the goals, we can see that, and we are preparing the trial now to establish the evidence here, we want to have increased knowledge of our HIV clients. We want to have enhanced well-being. We want them to take their drugs regularly, more regularly, and to follow the clinical appointments. And from a physical health perspective, we want them, of course, to reduce their viral load or to keep the viral load undetectable. So there's a mix of knowledge, educational aspects, social aspects, and physical health aspects here. And now I'm coming back to what I was alluding to before. How have we developed iOS? So, and I think a very promising approach from a more technical standpoint is to use hybrid models. And hybrid models, they integrate the generative probabilistic approaches, such as the language models. We are also using for some parts ChatGPT with the more classic rule-based approaches. And what we do in a nutshell is that we have the language models such as ChatGPT for the chit-chat, for the social conversation. But whenever something turns more serious regarding mental health, regarding medication or whatsoever, then the bot needs to use a different approach, a more rule-based approach, so that we can clearly control the information which is being shared. So this is also, maybe from a more technical perspective, an approach that I deem feasible. So I've come to an end. In a nutshell, what I was trying to say was that we have fascinating opportunities for global and public health. We also need to be very skeptical, of course, very critical. There are many negative aspects, to some of which I've pointed already. But this development is really viewed to underlying development, which is the convergence of social media and conversational AI, which is the main topic of my talk, which is then also the emergence of really advanced models of generative AI applications, such as GPT. And there is much more to come. So there are many other language models. We are only at the beginning of this development. And the whole development has also been promoted by the responses needed to the massive flood of mis and disinformation coming from COVID-19. And I think we need to balance the risks and to control in public and global health the information flow, because we just cannot allow to have misinformation, false information, harmful information be distributed via these channels. So the incorporation of rule-based and probabilistic approaches is probably a promising way forward.